let's run through the demonstration. Okay, thanks, Vinod, explaining the Ansible piece. So as we have talked through our observe capability, then to engage, then to remediate or act or as an automation. So now from the tool perspective, so right now I am sharing my screen in Jira Service Management. I am sitting inside IT operations board. And in this IT operations project slash board or slash the like your practice that you have, I can see a list of the tickets that are coming in here. So these tickets are coming in as part of the proactive incident management practice. And this proactive incident management is there because of Elastic piece. And now, as an agent, if I click on all my open ticket queues, I can see the incidents that are coming in. So we were talking about the billing app. We were talking about billing service. So essentially, in our scenario, we have the billing app in here where payments, somebody is unable to make a transaction, and sometimes payments are getting rejected, and it's because of an error that has been triggered when we were talking at that time. So now when I look into this ticket detail, I can see here this is a system issue with a key with a priority, and then I have the summary and is fired in. So if I deep dive in here as a support and operations team, what I see in here is essentially the description. So there's a summary piece that is fetched in based on the certain conditions, the parameters that have been defined in Elastic observability to trigger the rule and push the information to Jira. And then we have the description of this and explaining what is happening here. Some links also published in here or pushed in here from Elastic side, that as an agent, if I'm looking in here as an operations team member, if I'm looking in here, I can click on those links to get more details in. And then some rules that have been defined in here. So these rules for how much time and what threshold you need to meet, that is configured in there. It can be changed as well to push the information to Jira. But if I scroll further down to see, it's essentially it's kind of pushed in with a guiding playbook as well. So when I look at, as an operations team, I look at the playbook that is available in here. So there is the difference between a playbook and a run. I'm using the word playbook. We can use it playbook/runbook. Essentially, one of the playbook is essentially configured within Ansible, but the runbook or the playbook that I'm using in here is my game plan to restore this particular service, the billing app. Okay, so now if I click on this playbook, it's giving me the details of this billing system that we have in here. So it's powered by Confluence, essentially giving the capability to the operations team to look at who's the service owner and who's doing what and how the architecture look like, and then what are the dependent applications that are connected through, and what tools are we using in here from and what limitations, known errors we have in here to track everything, and any dependencies and so on is listed in it. So this is giving the visibility or the context to the support team who's going to look at this. But not only this game plan or the runbook we can suggest. On top of that, system has the capability to natively push a message in here to the support agent from a context standpoint, what other incidents are happening at the same time. And then we can take a look at and see the services detail as well. But before going in there, I can also click on the expand icon here to see the full detail. So whatever is defined in my runbook game plan, I can see in here billing system is running on my fictitious CRM and the fictitious EC2 as well. And then other components are connected in here together. So essentially, if I see this kind of details as an operation, I know what I need to do next, because I have a lot of information here to troubleshoot this or to recover from this particular disruption. Okay, not only this one, I can see the previous changes that have been pushed through in last week or last 24 hours through a particular particular change that had been pushed by the development team versus a particular anomaly that was resolved previously by taking some proactive or preventive actions and so on. And then in case there are previous tickets where we have recovered, we want to see how we recovered, then system is giving you the suggestion as a support agent to look at the solutions that we have applied to the previous tickets and so on. And then comes to my note in here from a collaboration communication perspective. I can collaborate with other team members by just mentioning their name in here, that essentially I need assistance with something and I can put a message in here. So this is all internal collaboration. And then I can also inform internal stakeholders that I am investigating this ticket to set the expectation, and these stakeholders could be the service owners, the business users that are that may expect a ticket or something to come through. But essentially, when there is a decision that has been made, so essentially I can put this ticket into work in progress, and I can deep dive into the logs that have been assigned in here. I can assign this ticket to myself. I can change the status to work in progress. So essentially, when I change the status to work in progress, the ticket is assigned to me as a responder to this. And if you guys hear that I got a phone call, this is the alert that there is a ticket for me as a responder, essentially. And I need to take a look at this, and you can see that system is pushing me the details and helping me to acknowledge on this. So right now it's assigned by me to myself to demonstrate this, but essentially, and I will close this for a while. So essentially, if you notice that the responder section increased from 4 to 5, essentially is the idea that the alerts can be pushed to me through based on the on-call schedule people, and then essentially if somebody picks up the ticket, then he will also receive an alert. And this is an example that I've shown just now. But another thing, at the same time, when we are talking about the next actions, I want to show like how I was notified, how a system has identified that I also need to be part of this. Is I have changed the assignee to myself, and then that gives me an option to receive this alert. But if it could be somebody else, that will also receive the alert. And from a stakeholder perspective, we can add like we can have a configuration, the service owners, or we can add more stakeholders at a runtime as well. Okay, so all this will be available in here under my on-call schedule. This information is available in, and people can essentially see at one stage for which particular services or which particular team who is on standby today, who needs to receive the notification. So if you are running multiple like teams to support multiple services that you have, and then you can see that there's a whole list of people that are running on roster to support this from a different perspective. Okay, and at the same time, when we talk about the communication to the end users, so from an end user perspective, it depends on the protocols that have been defined internally, what needs to be communicated to the customers, the external users. Based on that, the messages can be customized. But right now, I just broadcasted the same message that I've got to the external people, that there's an outage, there's an incident that we are looking at, and then people, when they are raising a ticket, they may self-service first. So one piece is we getting everything through the monitoring piece and letting the system to notify people and resolve. But when the service goes down, as I mentioned, it's service this is resolving this, but other people are also, it could be internal or external, connecting to the services team asking that I have this problem. But from that perspective, if they will go to the help center, if you see in here the self-service screen, they go and raise a problem to the operations team, they will be able to straight away see here that, okay, this message is already broadcasted, and we, instead of submitting the ticket, they can click here and they see that application is already somebody's already looking at, and then when they click on here, it will bring them to the status page, which is your company name / status, that this thing. And if you click in here, right now it's investigation. As the more messages comes in, you will be able to see in here. People can also subscribe to these updates, whether they want to receive via email, via SMS, whenever there's an outage, that can be done. Okay, so coming back to the screen, I have pushed this to in progress. I have gone through all this information. I was unable to solve this, I was unable to identify the right solution. So I'm going to escalate this as major incident. From a swarming perspective, I will call other people as well. And when I say other people, is essentially that can be defined at the runtime, which team needs to be added in, like network or infrastructure and so on, or it can be predefined as well, depending upon the architecture that we have in from an application dependency perspective. And I can initiate a conference call, and this conference call is kind of a command center war room bridge where we can add everybody in the system, and we can start discussing. We can start having discussions. I have just because there's a video on in Zoom, so it can't initiate two cameras at the same time. So I'll just go in here without video in this tool, and I can do the screen share, okay? And then I can have a chat in here. If I look at the chat, essentially, I can see the participants are automatically added. So that's the key. I don't need to identify. I can still do, but by default system is pushing the notification to these people to add into the command center based on the clear dependency mapping that I have in my CMDB, that who needs to be notified and so on. Okay. Coming back to this, it's not the only one thing, but we have the chat channels. So essentially, we can do the chat through Slack and Microsoft Teams. Essentially, if you prefer to initiate the conversation through the chat channel, then Microsoft Team is there and Slack is there. If you don't want to use the conference call feature, which is built into the product, and you are using another tool at the moment, for example, Zoom, then you can have integration with Zoom, and then you can straight away create a channel or a call or a meeting link to call other people to come in. So essentially, different options are available to help like swarm and solve this problem quickly. But imagine that we have different teams working in here. It's been a while, and then I have figured out what is the solution for this. And the solution for this is essentially people are getting this payment rejected error because there is one process that is running long for a long time and needs to be killed, so or needs to free up some memory. So essentially, example that I have is a simple playbook, essentially to restart the server, but there are more playbooks that can be added. As we know, was telling, like we need to identify what particular problem we are going to solve, and then we can have is like a low complexity to a very high complex playbook ready. Okay, and few example in here, but I'm going to use the restart server. So for example, when I've selected this is one of my playbook, I have restarted this, but essentially now what will happen is there will be a restart of the server behind the scene that will be executed through the piece, the automation piece that we have in here. But at the same time, while we are executing the playbook, now I'll explain to you that when I was investigating this with the team, how the logs were helping me. So essentially, when I wanna look at the logs, I click on the links that are available in here. It will take me to the Elastic piece. So when I am looking into the Elastic and looking at the observability, and I can see the stream that is coming in from different errors that I have. So essentially, I can see that there are different errors that are coming in. And as we explained previously, then when we are increasing the application size from, like, we are moving away from monoliths to microservices, there are more logs coming in. And then when more logs are coming in, then it's very difficult with the human eye to find out what is the next action we need to take based on this. So then we can use the machine learning and AI piece in here to help speed up our process to remediate fast. Okay, and at the same time, when we are looking at the stream, if I go to the Elastic screen in here from Elastic observability overview perspective, I can see that I have hosts that are connected in here. Okay, if I click on one of the hosts, I can see that what information is available. So when I click on this host, I can see that, okay, this server is up for a certain time. So this is the server that is being used to simulate my app scenario. So when I click in here, I can see the CPU utilization, the load on the server, and the memory utilization, and so on. So at any stage, if I need to essentially deep dive into see more details into a specific trend, I can see that. If I need to look at one particular spike, which essentially was defined in one of the slides that Cheetham was presenting, like you need to see why there is a spike, and then how you can define that, what what key pieces are connected in, or what are the key triggers to create this spike. It could be the load, it could be anything in here. So that essentially is the piece where you can deep dive and you can leverage on the power of machine learning, where we have essentially defined certain rules based on the sources, the logs that are coming in, to identify what will be the next step to take place, and each anomalies that are coming in has the, so I got another one. Each anomaly that is coming in have got a score, and then if we want to deep dive into that, so essentially I can open up the anomaly explorer and I can see the further deep dive details. So we can put different the criteria in here, like from a matching perspective, and there's other that we can define in here to see the details. And if I see the detail in here, so I can figure out that, so my file beat logs is coming in, and I have some repeat score in here from a count perspective. The plus is essentially is telling me that where things are meeting this criteria for 2 times and more, or whatever the threshold that is defined in here. And if I want to go deep dive into from a prediction perspective or time series perspective, we can see, okay, essentially we can deep dive and use the particular spike in here and see, okay, so if we're getting a spike, and what will be happening down the road in next 30 minutes, few hours, and so on. So we can leverage of this machine learning piece in here to deep dive into the service status or health of a particular service that we have. But not only this, we can define our services details in. So essentially, these are all different services. I used one of the billing, as I mentioned previously. And if I want to see the dependency, a map in here that is somehow translated in my previous screen as well. So if I deep dive in here, so I can essentially, and let me just quickly bring in here. Okay, so I will deep dive to this, and I will see, okay, so this is one of the service, and if I click on the service, I can see the service related details as well. So I can see host details, I can see service details, I can see any transaction orders that are coming in, any errors that are coming in, and we can drill down into these errors, and it's very easy. Okay, so that helps me identify what is the cause, and I have executed the playbook. And if I go back to my ticket and I'll scroll down a bit, and I'll see that when the ticket was changed into the close status, into the resolve status, the change has been executed. And then as part of this change execution, I can now I'm verifying all this information, and by looking at the change ticket, so it's an emergency change that have been created, and I have gone through the recorded pre-approval steps to go to the next steps. So from that perspective, if I'm looking at this change, essentially, so this change is giving me the context. So system has automatically, intelligently copied over or populated or made the other information available for me in here to get the approval for this billing service with this dependency that you have seen just now, and pushed this ticket all the way from planning to complete stage. And when we are going from planning to complete stage, it's just the flow that we have in here. So this flow is easy to configure, and then automatically we can pass through or navigate through different statuses. Our case was emergency, so we have bypassed certain process steps. But if in your case, your emergency is to capture more approvals, that's possible. It's just a configuration that you need to configure in here. And then you see that when the process was initiated, we have broadcasted a message that the auto restart has been started, and then when the self-healing or the auto restart has been completed, then the message is pushed back. Everything happened in seconds, and then you have the service up and running back. So now, as part of the process, if I have verified all these logs, I looked at these details, I can proceed to close this ticket. Okay, I can proceed to close these tickets essentially, and all these calls are coming in based on different messages that are coming in from different actions that have been taking place in the system. Okay, so this is kind of an example. You will be receiving alerts essentially if you need to respond back or an escalation happens. Okay, so I've closed this ticket. And when I close this ticket, I want to also touch on how I was executing this playbook. Essentially, there was a playbook that had been identified. So inside the platform, there's an automation that is calling the external webhooks. So in Ansible, we can define these playbooks as, and then we have a webhook URL that we can trigger in. So when a condition matches and there is a change, then we are going to essentially trigger the ticket into implementing, and then we are firing essentially a webhook, and then we are broadcasting a message that we are going to fire this webhook. Essentially, I'm going to restart, and then we have restarted, and then we have put the comment in here that the job has been executed, and so on. So that's how, without going into Ansible piece, I was able to run this playbook directly from Jira Service Management, and one is I can orchestrate between different services, different playbooks, and the other thing is Ansible can also orchestrate across different applications that you have, and essentially platform has endless capabilities, and it's just we need to see what particular scenario that you have, what pain point that you have, so that we can translate your pain point into a technical solution that can help you recover fast from the scenario. But last but not the least is essentially, we have seen all this from how the system is operating, working, but we also need to look at, from a reporting perspective, how we're getting things done. So essentially, as an infrastructure or operations manager or a leadership team member, I want to see what is happening inside the system. I can take a look at. So essentially, with a period of time since the 4th of April, how many anomalies were detected based on the rules, and then how many were resolved using the playbooks that we have versus where we need to define the playbooks to resolve those particular scenarios. Essentially, is giving you a flexibility, or essentially giving you an option to basically streamline your processes and continuously improve from where you are at the moment to the next few months, for example. And then you can see the incidents that are coming in from priority perspective, where the SLAs, we meeting, breaching, and then different pie charts, and we have an option to drill down this. And essentially, as a leadership team, I can also subscribe to these filters to get the updates without looking into the system. Okay, so now that is the end of my demonstration.